I'm Just Saying is sponsored by Hover.com. Go to gfu.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. FreshBooks. FreshBooks is an easy-to-use online invoicing service that saves you time, gets you paid faster, and makes you look professional. Get started completely for free at freshbooks.com. And by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook by going to audiblepodcast.com/GFQ. Hey everybody, welcome to I'm Just Saying week 72. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by the dog man Lon Blaze.
Yep. I'm cheating on Aggie this week.
He loves you, huh?
Yeah. Hi, Spencer.
I have it on video. I recorded when the dog was just laying on your face. And I'm going to take that.
You know what's sad? It's not the first time.
It's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on Facebook.
There you go.
And everybody will know you're a dog man.
Dog on face.
Holy crap, it got cold.
Yeah.
I mean, last week we were sweating in this room. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You came here last week. We were saying, oh my God, I can't believe it's so hot in here.
My nipples are a little hard.
Yeah, see? And now it's freezing.
Not because of you. You wish.
For the listeners, Lon is talking to the dog, not anybody else. Joanna's not here today.
Yeah.
It is something else how this weather changed. October hit and it's freezing.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be 76 Saturday, so, you're going to do this little roller coaster through October.
What was it today? What it hit?
Like 65.
Top. Oh, wow. It was really cold. Let me ask you, though, Lon, when I remember, and this isn't long ago, I'm a lot younger than you, when I would start school,
so it would start getting cool.
It was like, I'm talking not like high school. I'm talking about when I was 1989, 1990, 1991. Right. I had just started school, 89. It was cold. Like, I remember I would have to wear a jacket, and I didn't want to wear a jacket. I remember coming out of school and saying, wow, it's really cold.
Yeah, what I think has happened now is that there's more fluctuations in temperature than there used to be. I mean, you used to get 3 days to a week of true Indian
summer. Yeah.
Now, Indian summer actually has rules, by the way.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. Indian summer is a warm period after the first frost.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Right.
I mean, we don't have that.
Most people think, school starts and it gets cool and then it gets warm again, and that's Indian summer. But I don't know who made up the rules of weather, but Indian summer is a warm period, and I think it's above 70. After a frost.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. I'm sure.
But I swear to you, I remember walking home because I'm right by the school, and the leaves would be changing.
Right.
And last year was the first time I noticed that the leaves didn't change.
Yeah.
It just fell off.
Right, because it got cold real quick.
Really cold, really quick.
It got cold quickly and late.
And then it got hot, and then it was freezing.
And then it got hot for like 2 days. They got cold, and the leaves didn't turn. There was just bad rain for like 2 or 3 days, and it sucked all the leaves off the trees.
The event we had last year is almost in a year now, and it was still okay. The weather was still kind of warm for that event, and it was mid-October.
Right.
It's weird. It feels like it's getting pushed back longer and longer, and then the winters are crazy cold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
I heard again that it's supposed to be because we've had so much precipitation in the form of rain, to the point that New Jersey's flooded, we're flooded, Long Island's flooded, that it's supposed to be wicked again.
You want my theory on this?
Oh God.
I don't think there's any thought behind it. I think everybody wants some sort of theory. There's no theory at all. Right. It's just whatever the weather decides.
Right. There has been periods of stuff. Weather cycles happen in like 100-year cycles. So anything that happens like two or 3 years in a row really isn't a pattern. It's just, it was cold today. It was warm today. It rained. It snowed. That sort of deal.
My mouse broke. That's not good. All right. So everything is breaking. It's fine. I've given up here. Nothing works at all.
Spencer, you're giving me like tantamount to a come hither stare.
What is he doing?
He's just like,
look at him.
He's like looking at me, and he's doing this sort of slight. His eyes are shading a little. Like he's being all seductive. It's weird.
Yeah, so it's a cold day here in New York, but I kind of like it.
I do too.
I'm able to work a lot better now.
Yeah. Yesterday was soup day, and I doubled it up. I made Joanna soothing autumn soup. If any of you want the recipe, I can give it to you. Really good soup that I made enough for a week. She had it twice yesterday, and she's had it twice again today. She likes this soup so much. And I made vegetarian chili, which just rocked. It was the best. Great soup.
I just stopped eating. I've been eating ramen noodles for 2 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're back in college.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? I realize my whole thing with eating is it's almost like an addiction. It's like, like with the smoking, people need to have something in their hand.
Yeah.
I do the same with smoking. I have something in my hand. I haven't had a drink since Friday night. It's weird.
Andrew.
This is the longest I haven't had a drink.
Wow.
Probably since I was 14.
I had a drink Thursday night. I went out to dinner and I had a drink. And you know me.
That's a weird
rare.
thing for you.
Yeah, I drink at my parties. I make up for it.
Now
I really drink.
The ultimate test is going to be I'm going to Lunatic Radio right after this.
Right, and they'll have beer.
And they'll always have beer.
Right.
So will I drink? You know what it is?
If you tell me you're not going to drink, you will. If you tell me, I think I'll drink tonight,
exactly.
You won't.
I don't want to make a thing out of it. Like, I don't want to say, like, I'm not going to drink anymore.
Right.
Or I'm not going to drink for this long because then I'm putting a title to it and I'm not going to be able to do it. Just like with smoking, I never put a title to it. I feel that people who do that are extremely unhappy and they'll never be happy even with the results that they'll get when they stop.
Okay. Are you happy? Are you?
That's a good question. It's a complicated question.
Now, are you happy because you're not drinking, or are you happy because... are you unhappy because you haven't drank and you just feel like you have to go through some hurdle here and not drink?
No, you know what it is? Not drinking, it's not that... like, I'm trying to be sober, but not because I think I have a problem, because I just want to be a little healthier. Mm-hmm. In every sense. I'm not taking Advil, I'm not taking aspirin, I'm not taking any sleeping pills. Like, I just want to cleanse myself a little bit.
Yeah, I'm vegan, not as like, do I think animals are treated cruelly and stuff? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think people eat animals? Yeah, I do. Do I think they're wrong in eating animals? No, I don't. Do I think they're wrong in the way they eat animals and the kind of animals they eat? Yeah, I do. What I'm trying to do is just get to healthier food, So a lot of times things look like moral judgments on my part, and they're not. I've looked at stuff and seen how crappy it is. I just don't want to eat it anymore, And I would think the same with alcohol, Up to a certain point, it's like fun and enjoyable, and past a certain point, it's just abusive to you.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever reached that point of abuse, though. I'm never like falling over drunk, but I've always
but you're
had something to drink.
Yeah. Because it's habit.
It's a habit.
Right. And does the habit make you happy, or does the habit make you happy?
Makes me sleepy, and I like sleeping.
Okay.
So I don't get happiness from any kind of substance.
Right. What do you get out of drinking?
I get a little buzz.
Oh my God, we've just gone AA.
I know. This is like AA for me. What do I get out of drinking? I don't know. It's like a social thing.
Right.
Like sometimes I'm like, I'm going to have a drink. It's a habit more than anything else. Mm-hmm. I always said to myself...
Has anyone ever told you you're an alcoholic?
I've had the talk with Jess. Mm-hmm. She was concerned. Mm-hmm. But like this was like my early 20s and I was partying.
I think we're all alcoholics.
But I think...
Except me, I didn't drink.
Do you think you're predisposed to it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You think that like genetically or like socially?
Genetically.
Genetically. He's ready. He's going. Look at him. Look at this guy.
Any second... Spencer's going to have opposable thumbs and is going to be typing brilliance.
Look at him. He's so funny. He's a studio puppy.
Yeah,
he's always in the studio now. I don't know. That's an interesting thing. I think you could control it to some extent.
Right.
But I think a lot of people, same thing with smoking. I think a lot of people... Smoking
and exercise. Look at me now.
Yeah.
I'm like 6 months
Do you
ago,
believe that you replace addictions?
Oh, absolutely. Do you know how many people who are like in the New York Runners Club are former addicts and stuff?
I was about to say that. I know so many runners that are...
Because it gives them an endorphin high the same way.
It's not as good. It's never as good.
Yeah, you never wake up naked next to someone after running.
And not know who that person is.
How good can that be?
I don't know. That's an interesting thing. I've never been accused of it, but I think people have questioned.
See, I think this whole like the whole happiness thing, I think it kind of makes you happy to do and you have a good time, but I don't think you recreate happiness. I think you find new happiness. Yeah. So if you go and do the exact same thing, it very well may not make you happy again.
You know what it is, Lon? And it's an interesting question. This brings me a lot of happiness, what I'm doing.
Right.
And this gives me a high.
Right.
In a way where I get that rush. You know,
Well, I
every
think it's
time
really
we're
cool
doing
is
the
I
show,
get to
the
watch
rush.
you in your bliss and your happiness. You got to see me in mine. You saw
I
me
know.
in the class.
And then what happens when I turn off the camera and I get out of here?
You're a surly,
Yeah.
obnoxious
Yeah.
person. This is why we don't meet together during the week.
We were just talking about that last week. The reason why we don't get together, and you figured out that I'm a miserable fuck to be around, and I'm only decent to be around when I'm on the air.
Right.
And that is true. I think Jessica says the same thing.
No, you've got about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You got
and
like
you know what happens? And then I start complaining.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, really, doing great. And oh, did I tell you the crap that's going on with this? Yeah. It's like you fall into this thing. But you saw me in my bliss, in my place. When I was in the classroom, I was pretty happy. Even when kids were giving me crap and stuff.
Yeah, you know what you never did? I'm trying to think. Are you happy? That's an interesting question. Are you happy?
Well, this
like
is what I'm trying to figure out.
How do you level happiness?
Okay. I have moments of great happiness. And I've begun to think that that's what, this whole like, I want to be happy all the time. I don't know. Can you imagine someone who was happy all the time? Picture that.
Yeah.
Someone that was happy all the time.
I know someone like that. Jess. She's one of those. Always happy. I've made her into a cynical jerk. Like you
may have done her an incredible favor because she was just going to burn out.
Yeah, but she's always, not always happy.
I think there are people that are more happy than others, but I don't think there's anyone that's
always happy
all the time.
Yeah.
But what I love is that that's some sort of goal, particularly in this country. I was listening. This was inspired because I was listening to something on NPR, and they were doing a survey. And in the rest of the world, happiness is not an expectation. People. In essence, happiness is like a bonus as opposed to an expectation. I remember when I used to talk to you guys in class about religions, and I said that I liked every religion in the world, and they asked me what I liked about Buddhism, and I said, well, what I like about Buddhism is you take a typical American. If a typical American wakes up and he isn't in a mansion and he doesn't have 4 amazing cars in his garage, and he hasn't just won the lottery, and he's not in bed with 2 supermodels, somehow his life is not as good as other people's.
Well, we're an extremely materialistic society now.
So, but happiness is, but a Buddhist wakes up, expects nothing, finds a quarter, and his day is great. It's like, wow, I found a quarter. I wasn't expecting that. If you expect everything, you're only going to be disappointed. If you have no expectations, something bad happens, you're coming at it from not such a high place. Something good happens, something tiny makes you feel better.
I guess that's why people drink, right? I mean, people drink and do drugs because they're trying to seek that happiness.
Or dodge the unhappiness.
Or dodge the unhappy.
Well, if you're not happy, this is what I spent, and probably why Joe has a headache now. It isn't here. If you're not happy, are you necessarily unhappy? Is that the only 2 states that you can be?
No, because I'm not happy. I'm not a happy person.
Right. And
but I'm not necessarily unhappy.
I invoked your name.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think Andrew's happy all the time.
No.
But I don't think he's unhappy.
No, I'm never.
But what is that third place called? If you're neither happy nor unhappy. We couldn't put a word on it.
The Andrew Vortex.
The Andrew Vortex.
You know what? I'll tell you what my day is.
The Zarian Zone.
You know what I do, and I think this is why I'm not always happy. Everything is a job, and I look at everything I do as a job. If I say to you, Lon, let's go out for lunch, that's a meeting for me. That's how I get out of bed and I'm able to do stuff. I have to make it a job because my job is the first priority in my life, which is sad. And Jess and I have had this total conversation about where our priorities are. And she's always said, your job is your main priority more than anything else. And I said, yes, it is. It's always been. My job has always been it. And I'll work 80, 90 hours and I'll make no money. But I have to do that because that's my job.
Is that good or bad?
I'm not lazy. I know that.
Yeah, I know. I'm not lazy either.
It's not good. It's not good because then what happens is it's very difficult for you to build a relationship with people and not be work. If you look at what I've done, who are my friends outside of the network?
We were kind of talking about this
last week, to an extent. Who are my friends outside of the network? Nobody.
Right.
And what
kind of tolerance do you have for those people?
None.
Outside? Right, exactly.
And it was a weird thing. I went to Kanal's show. Friday he had a stand-up thing, and he did a great job. I mean, I give him so much credit. He put together this unbelievable stand-up show at Triple Crown Bar. And a lot of people that I haven't seen in 10 years, my friends from high school were there. And they all said the same thing to me. Where the hell have you been? Did you move? What happened? And I said, why? What do you mean? He goes, we used to get together all the time. And you just disappeared and stopped answering my calls. I got this from 3-4 people.
I like people, like, I throw a couple of big parties each year, and that's how I stay current with people. But do you talk to people? Like, but you have friends. Yeah. I mean, you talk to people. Yeah.
I don't talk to anybody unless they're working with me.
Yeah, you got to fix that.
But you know what I do? Then I hire them. Then I end up hiring the people around me.
Because you want control over your friends.
I do. And then you know what happens? If it doesn't end well, I could just erase them from my life. And I have an excuse.
Oh, you know a person we talk about all the time? I have a great idea. I have such a great idea.
The guy, right?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. I don't want to name names.
Okay. But I have such a great idea. I have such a great idea.
You should tell me off the air.
Oh, I definitely will. Definitely will.
But what do you think drives happiness to people? Because I guess that's the topic of today's show.
In the end, and I've always said this, even with these questions about how often you're happy and what percentage of the time you're supposed to be happy, and we were even discussing, can you be 72% happy? You know what I mean?
All the time, you mean?
No. Can you be 72% happy? If you're not 100% happy, are you actually happy?
No. You have to be either 100% happy if you're going to be in a happy state.
So really, I think people are happy very, very seldomly. Like,
But people are happy when they get things. People are happy when they get a present. At that moment.
Right.
And then it goes away.
Right, exactly. And happiness is in the moment. But happiness, I've always said this, is a choice. You and I can go through the same incident. Mm-hmm. You can walk out of it happy, and I can walk out of it miserable. Because it's our reaction to it. And our reaction decides whether we're happy or not.
You notice a lot on Facebook, like people's behaviors and the way that people perceive things. You could really read that well on Facebook, and it doesn't seem like anybody is happy.
I think people are annoyed by the stuff that happens to everyone. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, why are you so upset that this little thing went wrong? You know? I mean, so upset. I don't mean don't be upset. Mm-hmm. You know, I understand. To me, the greatest, I'm going to use an analogy. The worst thing that anyone can do as a driver is disrupt someone's flow of movement. Yeah. Including yourself. Like, if I'm moving along on a road and someone cuts in front of me, that interrupts my flow of movement, and we're going to have to interrupt each other's flow of movement a little bit. What we have to do is minimize the amount that we do that. Yeah. Okay. So if you can minimize that, that's the kind of stuff that you have to do in life. You have to, if I meet someone, everyone I meet is not going to make me happy. Everyone I meet is not going to do something for me, because inherently, I think all human behavior is selfish. Mm-hmm. I love my wife, but, I do stuff to make her happy so that, I don't piss her off so she doesn't bother me, Okay. But, I'll do things genuinely, but, do they come from the heart? Yeah. Do they make me happy? No, not all the time. Can you imagine if you got and did everything you ever wanted to do? And everything you ever wanted? You imagine it all the time.
I do. That's all I think about.
Right. And you get pissed off that you can't have it.
I can't watch Entourage. Have I ever told you that?
No.
Because it bothers me so much that they're successful in this imaginary world, and because they're from the same neighborhood. I can't watch it.
See, this.
You know what else I can't watch? MTV Cribs. I can't watch any house remodeling show. I can't watch any kind of success story because it bothers me that I don't have it. Like if I watch like the real estate shows where they show all these beautiful homes.
Yeah.
I can't watch that because I don't have that house. Until I get that house, and that's my goal. Like, I want one of these homes. So until I get that, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know that it exists.
So you must think my house is crap, man.
Yeah, but your house isn't on TV, like, being sold for $5 million.
That's true.
Like, like those type of homes, they drive me crazy, those shows.
You would want one of those?
Oh, yeah. The biggest obnoxious house in the world.
See, I don't. Yeah, if anything, I would get a smaller house.
Would you?
Yep.
I would stay here. My goal is I wouldn't move from here.
I'd like to live in the Gables.
The Gables. I would knock down this house.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't
Would you build a good-looking McMansion?
I wouldn't build a McMansion. I would build a true to its time house. So if it was a Dutch colonial, I would build a beautiful, brand new Dutch colonial, and I would stay authentic to the neighborhood.
Right.
Because they were all Dutch colonials. I think these homes are beautiful. They have such personalities.
Yeah, the McMansion.
I don't like it.
You know what? You know what gets me? Chrome.
Oh, yeah.
Chrome fence rails.
And brick everything and concrete
and
everything.
And the ugliest pink brick, like a sand.
You're talking about the house down the block.
I'm talking about all the houses here.
The Irish kids always used to throw rocks at the window when they built it.
Really?
They would throw bricks and rocks at the window, and they used to, because it's a glass, I guess, it's like a glass window from top to bottom on the corner of the house. It's like
that's just saying hit
looking
me.
up the.
That's just got a big target.
So the Irish kids, like the bad like Irish kids, because we live in the 1930s here, and we still have like the Irish hooligans running around the block. They would take rocks.
Oh my god, that's like the second time I've heard the term hooligan.
They would take rocks and just throw it at the glass, and it would break the glass.
Yeah, hooligans.
It was the funniest thing.
Yeah, hoodlums and hooligans.
It's a weird neighborhood, Lon.
Oh, it really is.
I have a bagpiper every year. Comes up and down the blocks. There's bagpipe in the kilt.
Really?
Yeah.
I was at a Scottish funeral on Friday.
More.
Yeah. You know the gay couple that I went to their wedding. The two girls from the girl I dated in college.
Yes.
Not my fault.
Yeah.
She was married after me.
Yeah.
The girl from college, her partner's mom passed away.
And they did a whole thing.
Yeah, with very Scottish. What I loved is they had the bagpipes. You know, everyone was the color of paste. You know, blonde hair. And then after the interment service, because they interred mom's ashes, they went to an Italian restaurant. I just loved it.
Is it okay by the Catholic Church to cremate?
It is now.
Okay.
They changed it. I love that the Catholics changed for 1,000 years. If you ate meat on Friday, you were going to hell.
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden they were like, yeah, you can eat meat on Friday now. And all of a sudden, like, all these people were released from purgatory.
I think they should allow the priests to get married. I mean, why not? Whatever.
Talk about making someone happy.
Yeah. Or unhappy.
Right.
So do you think, that's another thing, do you think people get married to be happy and they're wrong?
No, I think the stupid people get married to be happy, if that's their be all and end all goal. If you haven't learned by the time you get married that this person that you're marrying is not in charge of your happiness, that you are, you shouldn't be getting married.
I think a lot of people do. I have a friend that just recently got married, and it's a girl.
Yeah.
And she's always had a problem keeping relationships. They last about 8 months, and then the guy leaves or whatever happens. And she met this guy. Within 3 months, they got married. Now it's month 6, and all she does is talk about how the marriage is falling apart. Now,
is it falling apart in her eyes?
Well, I guess so. I mean, I've spoken to people, and it's been like a bet. And when they got married, it was an ongoing joke at like the small little wedding they did. Was, will he make it 8 months? And apparently, I've heard the guy is great. So obviously, there's something going on with her where there's a timeline.
Well, you know, the moment someone says, "Every guy I date is this, every girl I date is this," the problem is the person themselves.
But you want to hear something weird? I know her sister, and her sister told me that their dad left their mom after being with her for 8 years. So the family theory is that she's so screwed up by the number 8, where 8 months is her 8-year mark, and she bails.
Too funny.
Which is weird.
Too funny.
But I think a lot of people do get married. I think a lot of people have kids to be happy. They think it's going to bring happiness.
Well, I think the two major reasons people have kids are two of the worst reasons in the world to have them.
Yeah.
One is because
everybody's doing it.
That could be a third, but I think there are two major reasons why people have it. I think because everyone's doing it is a small, especially now. Like you have the designer handbag, you have the designer car, you have to have the designer kid. If they're having kids, we should have a kid.
And I have
too.
a follow-up question to you.
Okay. I think the two reasons that people have kids are, one, there's sort of this social obligation. You're married. I mean, do your parents look at you? Her parents look at her and like, So
that we're getting that now.
You're getting that now?
Well, we've got that from day one.
Right. Do you know my in-laws never bothered me about having kids?
That's interesting.
Never. I think it was because Joe was sick.
But we want kids. Like, we want to have kids.
Yeah, we've never wanted.
I'm just holding up till she finishes.
That's why
school.
I taught. I like the whole rent lease option.
Yeah. You just give them back and you have the summers off. That's
right.
great.
Exactly. I get to be. I said we weren't born. You know, people say you're born with the mommy gene, the daddy gene.
Yeah.
We were born with the hip aunt and uncle gene.
You know what I've realized though? There was a whole thing where you needed to be young when you had your kid. Like, there was a whole trend, like a good 10 years, that people wanted to be young when they had the kid.
Right.
Like, I want to say this was like in the late 90s. It was a big thing to have a kid before 25.
Right.
Because you still wanted to be young, so that when the kid is 25, you're turning 50, so you could be like that cool mom thing.
Right. Also, you could have a life.
And you could enjoy it afterwards.
Right.
Now I'm noticing everybody's waiting. I mean, if I had a kid now, it would be young. Like, people tell me, like, "Oh, you're still young. You guys are 26, 27."
Yeah, like mid-30s seems to be the time to have a kid now.
Yeah, mid-30s, which I think I want to have a kid before I'm 30. Because I don't want to go through the birthing process and, be a little older. It gets tougher after that for me.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's a weird thing because I see all my friends and I saw them, I haven't seen these girls for like 10 years. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, like, none of them are in a relationship. None of them are engaged. None of them have a boyfriend. They're still doing the same thing that they were doing when, they were 17. Do you think it's the society? Do you think that's bringing them happiness? Do you think we're kind of conditioned now to say, I think go out and do your thing?
I think there's social expectation and I think there's family obligation. I think there's a social... Do you remember times when I was teaching? I'm referring to a lot when I was teaching tonight. People would like freak out that I didn't have kids. Well, why? Don't you want kids, Mr. Blaze?
No.
No. And they say, why? I said, I hate kids.
At what age does that start? At what age did they start saying, well, how come you don't have kids? Why don't you
from the moment
have kids?
the moment I was teaching. Because I realized I taught 8th grade always. So it was 8th grade kids that were asking. They all asked. And what's so funny is there's certain ethnic groups and cultural groups where, like, spreading your seed into the world. And especially because I was a guy, didn't I want someone to carry my name, into, when I was no longer here.
I would say, do you know what's linked to this name?
Oh, yeah. I said, I think the gene pool here can get real shallow real fast. Yeah. I was like, I can't guarantee. My mom had 9 kids, and she totally expected us all to be cool. And
how many nieces and nephews do you have?
Wow. Do you know there are some that I've never met? So that's okay. My oldest sister has 2. My next brother has 3. Next brother has 2. Sister has 2. Brother has 3. Brother has 3. There's 15.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's actually for 8 brothers and sisters, 15 isn't a lot, especially where I come from.
I mean, but that's a big family.
But I don't have any, and my youngest brother and sister don't have any. So there's 3 of us that don't have kids.
Interesting.
Is there anyone else that don't? No, the rest of them have the. So it's 15 among 6. So that's 2.5 each.
Yeah. See, Jess and I are the oldest in the family, so we kind of have to, like, go through everything first.
I was at a Christmas party once with all my family members and my mother-in-law and her 2 sisters who look kind of like the Marx Brothers in drag. Were there, and my neighbor was there, and the neighbor had just had a little baby, and she asked me to hold the baby. And I hold the baby and I turn and the 3 sisters are sitting on the couch. And as I spun around and looked up, this is what I got. The 3 of them going, like, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? My mother-in-law never said anything, but boy, did she look. She,
So let me ask you, to go back to the happiness. I want to go back.
Because it all goes back to happiness.
It does. What do you think is the number one misconception about being happy?
I think the misconception, we kind of talked about it, is that that there's you're like entitled to it.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't entitled. You can't be entitled to something that you have a choice of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like saying everyone in the world has to be taught how to be happy. And you've met people. There's some miserable son of bitches in the world. They just don't know how to be happy. So if they're
I don't know if it's they don't like,
they have the right to happiness. You know, like we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
like
You know
I know some mean people. I just know some people
Yeah.
that are just total like jerks.
But I don't think
Guy
that
and
makes
girl.
them happy. I don't think
No.
being jerk makes them happy.
No, I think a lot of them are happy.
Now, see, I don't. I don't think you can be that way and really be happy.
Be a cold asshole.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think psychopaths and sociopaths are happy being mean. You know, but
I think
don't.
a lot of people don't know they're like that. See, that's the problem. I think a lot of people they're not like if you think
I think
about
everyone
it,
should be on reality TV because the moment you see yourself on TV, you kind of go, "Wow, I'm kind of an asshole." Because there are people that have been on shows that have said, "I didn't know I came off that way."
I could tell you a number of people that I know that they're not mean, but they're just cold people. They're not, bubbly. They're not happy. They're not like happy around people. They're not interested in what you're doing. And I feel the reason why they're like that is for a number of reasons, but the two main reasons are that in their childhood, that's how they were raised. They never saw any type of affection around people. So they don't really know how to be around people.
You don't know how to model whatever.
Yeah. Number two is that they've never been around anybody that's told them, hey, why do you act like this?
Right, that there's a different way to be.
Exactly.
That takes a lot of time.
It does.
And, they say that your personality is pretty much carved in stone by the time you're 5.
I'm trying to, are you like exactly like I'm who I am when I was 6. I'm the same kid.
Yeah, so am I.
Exactly.
Because no matter what happens, and I think what's so funny is that we're friends and that we're the opposite. I totally think that everything will be fine.
And I think
you know
everything
me.
is going to be bad.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you know that about me. And I know that about you. And somehow we managed to be friends.
Yeah. It's
and
funny.
I don't even think like when you walk away, I roll my eyes. I really don't.
No, I'm nothing's ever going to work out. And even if I know it'll possibly work out in the end, it's going to be a struggle for me.
And here's where I go. Someone once said to me that in essence, optimism is more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've not been hit by a bus way more than I've been hit by a bus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when a bus goes by, there are people that go, watch out for that bus. It could hit me,
I know you put the question out, what makes you happy on Facebook?
I have someone that's responding to me right now.
And you got a couple of responses, some
Yeah.
people are saying going back to work.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of times.
work, well, the whole, if, you never work if you love what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I was when I was teaching.
Well, I was talking to somebody about, they were explaining to me how difficult it is to get a job, and they turn around, they go, well, you must know what it's like. And I really don't. I've never
Not worked.
No, I've been working since I was 14.
Well, you know what's so funny? Remember when
and I've never had problem finding a job.
Remember when David was on the show?
Yeah.
And he talked about like he started working as an actor when he was 13.
Yeah.
And he got to be 33.
And then he didn't work.
And he didn't work for 10 months and he wigged out. I think.
How's the show doing?
Critically, it's okay. Pan Am's getting better.
It's better than Pan Am, though.
But Pan Am, I was just going to say, has really nice moments and it looks gorgeous. I think the Playboy Club has a bit of slow pickup to do to get its atmosphere around,
I like the fact that in Pan Am, they're using those Boeing 707s.
Yeah.
Like they're staying authentic because those were, the first plane 707 was a Pan Am flight.
Do you like it? Did you like Pan Am? Do you like the look of it?
I really like the look of it.
A bunch of my friends
really like the look of it.
Oh, I got to tell you a side story.
But let me tell you the bizarre thing.
Okay.
Do you know how many people came to me from my brother? Because we were talking about what's on this season.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, what's Pan Am? I'm like, you've never heard of the Pan Am building? And they go, the what?
It's the MetLife building now.
And they go, and I'm like, the Pan Am building in the city, the Pan Am building.
People still call it the Pan Am building.
I call it the Pan Am, and I know what Pan Am is. They go,
well, that's like
what's Pan Am? I'm like, it was a world famous airline. It was like one of the main airlines. And I realize these kids are born 1992. They have no idea.
You know
Pan
the
Am
Sears
collapsed in
Tower isn't
91.
the Sears Tower anymore?
No, it's not.
Everyone calls it the Sears Tower. I think it's
But that because Sears is still around.
Right. But
it's
still,
such an iconic
it's also,
thing.
It's like the Triborough Bridge is renamed too.
Queensboro is also been renamed.
Yeah, it's the Ed Koch Bridge.
Ed Koch Bridge.
And the
Robert
Triborough
Kennedy
is the RFK Bridge.
Yeah, the Robert Kennedy. You know what's going to be bizarre? Like Citi Field is named Citi Field because of Citibank.
Right.
What's going to happen when Citibank pulls out? Because the name fits it perfectly. It's Citi Field, New York City, What's going to happen if like Worry National Bank becomes a sponsor? Then what is it going to be called? Worry Field?
Yeah, absolutely.
How stupid is that?
Oh yeah. Well, this.
I don't like that at all.
Corporate. Yeah, I think. I hate that you now have the Tostito Bowl instead of like the something bowl sponsored by
Tostitos.
Tostitos.
Yeah.
That to me is way better. I understand that you need to be sponsored by somebody, but to own the name of it, I just or I'm sorry. This isn't Lawn Blazes. I'm just saying. I'm just saying with Lawn Blaze. I'm sorry. It's just ridiculous. People just want to piss all over everything and mark it as their own. I'm sorry. It just makes me nuts.
Yeah. So I had a very interesting conversation about the Pan Am building, and they had no idea what I was talking about. They looked at me like I was crazy.
The weirdest thing, I think, time warp thing that ever happened to me, in an age before the internet, which did exist. I needed to get the lyrics of a song for a play that I was doing. So I had a kid listening to a record. Okay? And I said, and get to a certain point, listen to the lyrics, write them down. If you have to do it, start the song again.
Can I guess?
Guess what they did? No, guess what they did?
I was going to say, they asked, how do you fast forward?
Right. Well, they didn't ask how to fast forward. All the person did was, it was like the fourth track on the thing. They started the record from the beginning and listen to
because they don't know how to find the groove. They don't know when a song stops.
Right, exactly.
That's funny. I would love to conduct a social experiment with my brothers and just give them a record and say, "Can you play this for me?"
Oh yeah, all kinds of things. Dial phones.
Yeah.
Can people? I mean, if you put it in front of you, could someone figure out a rotary phone?
Yeah, I think because it's very.
But it would just. But they would. I mean, I used to be able to like
click. I
used to be able to dial with one finger and have my finger positioned in the next one. So that you could do it really fast.
I was at the tail end of the rotary phone. I mean, we had a rotary in the house. Did I have
a rotary phone I had a rotary phone growing up, but I'm thinking I don't think in any house that I was paying the rent in, we ever had a rotary phone.
But that's funny. I mean, so the show was doing better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his character arc, as they say, his storyline is going to flesh out in the next few weeks because he has a dark secret.
He's the manager.
Yeah, he's the manager, but everyone has a dark secret, because that's on all shows. Everyone has a dark secret, and you deal with it. You've got the girl that killed the mob boss by accident.
Let me ask you, the Citibank building.
Okay.
It's not in Manhattan.
No, it's in Queens.
It's in Queens.
Yeah. But Queens is in the city, so.
Yeah. Well, we have this bizarre thing about what the city is and what's not.
Well, to New Yorkers, the city.
But that is interesting how they keep renaming these bridges, which I find that stupid. Just keep. Well, the 59th Street Bridge.
Well, I always thought it was weird. They like the Neil Simon Theater.
Yeah. Was
someone else's theater for a while, and then it was like the Gershwin Theater, and then they renamed it the Neil Simon Theater. I'm thinking, what, you can only be dead so long now? It's like once you're dead like 50 years, someone else who's dead, who's more recently dead, is going to get your name.
Well, do you know what the scary thing? Well, it was first the 59th Street Bridge, then it became the Queensboro Bridge.
Right.
Then it became the Ed Koch Queensboro Bridge. But do you know when it was completed? This is the scary part. And I go over this every Wednesday.
It's like 1920 something.
1909. It's 102 years old, which is scary if you think about it.
Wow.
That, you're going over this thing, it's 102 years old.
Unreal.
It's a beautiful bridge, though. It's a really pretty, very, very, New York,
and they're
early 1900s.
They're always working on it.
I always wonder, how do you maintain those things? How do you...
I don't know.
I mean, it has to be scary.
Do you know that they're always painting the Golden Gate Bridge? They're always painting. It's like they finish it, and then they just start painting it again.
You think those people are happy?
Right. I was going to say, what if your job is this thing that never ended? Like painting a bridge.
I know they get paid a lot. It's a very dangerous bridge.
Oh, yeah.
It was, by the way, it was in the Great Gatsby.
The Queensboro Bridge?
The Queensboro Bridge. Nick was going over the bridge on their way from Long Island City to Manhattan. From Long Island to Manhattan. The city scene from the Queensboro Bridge, Nick says.
My cross-country bike trip went over the Queensboro Bridge.
Did you?
Yep. I went across 32nd Avenue. Pretty much. They've
really revitalized that area.
Oh, yeah. Well,
on both sides. Like the city part, like that's where Sapphires is. It's right there. Like right over the bridge. So it's a very easy ride. But they really cleaned up like that Long Island City area. I mean, it's still a dump many parts. But
Ravel is over there.
Ravel is over there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a hip little place.
But it was a crack house.
It used to be. Now it's a very expensive crack house.
Yeah. Well, that's how all of them are. I mean, now, if you think about what they're doing, but I'm still amazed at these bad areas when I have a kid, and my kid is my age. Well, do you think there's going to be bad neighborhoods in New York? Like in New York City?
Well, bad neighborhoods shift.
In 30 years, do you think there's going to be a bad neighborhood?
The bad neighborhoods will be further out.
Well, let's see.
But you always have to, once a city reaches a critical mass in land area, you can't be jobbing in the poor folk who do the minimum wage jobs from too far away. You have to have a place for them to live. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, look at Manhattan. Where's the bad neighborhood? Alphabet City, right?
Not anymore.
Well, the early Alphabet City. What is it? Before Avenue? Well, what's the theory? A through M?
No, Alphabet City is just A, B, C, and D.
No, but there's like a thing. It's like a saying that they have, like, from this one to this one, it's okay.
Yeah, but that's what it used to be. I mean, I was down there when Bryant Park was just
bad.
Just awful.
And Bryant Park is great.
Yeah. That whole area there's really no bad area but people now job in and see, that's why prices are so high, because even the poor people can make a good salary here if you can get a job.
If you're making $100,000 living in the city, you're just getting by. Yep. I mean, I've been trying to figure that out with one of my friends.
Joe's cousin has a son. I think you met him. The really, really tall
tall kid, yeah.
Okay. He's 25, okay? Started at a bank, has 2 roommates on East 57th Street.
Okay.
And they're just managing to pay. They pay him. His pay is $65, and a month ago he got bumped to $85.
Yeah, and they're struggling.
And he doesn't have a car, because in Manhattan you don't need a car. You couldn't afford to have a car, because to garage it, you would have to pay rent.
$50,000 in rent for your garage.
Right, exactly.
I've been trying to figure out what you could live comfortably with in the city. And the issue with that is,
I think you're kind of talking $250,000. If you're doing,
I was about to say that $250,000, but where are you living? What type of apartment do you have? You're still in a 1-bedroom.
You might be in a small 2-bedroom, because I think $250,000 you can, put it this way. If you're a person by yourself, just a person, you can have your studio or 1-bedroom, and that's enough space, because they're starting to make condominiums without kitchens in them.
Yeah.
There's a galley closet in things now, which has like a small refrigerator.
Well, there are people that don't need to cook.
Right. They go out, they leave in the morning because they're a hustle job. They actually consume some breakfast on the way, or they have a breakfast meeting. And there are people that and they eat out at night. And the apartments are so small that you don't want to. Apartments are places for you to sleep and to keep your belongings. They are not places to live.
No, see, that's one thing. I don't think you want to stay in that, because I had a friend, they even Kunal was a tiny apartment, but I had a friend, they had a beautiful apartment. I mean, but it was so small. It was tiny but beautiful. They had a fireplace. It was right off of the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great. I mean, it was this quiet street. It was a small apartment, and they got out of there, but they were paying like $3,800 a month.
Yeah.
For a house that's the size of this studio.
Do you know what part of our retirement plan is?
What?
Just to sell the house and live in the back, the ass end of nowhere, where we can we'll sell our house, and think about it. In 20 years, what's my house going to be worth?
20 years?
Yeah.
$1.5 million, a little over that, if the market doesn't tank.
Right. and I'll take that $1.5 million and
More
I'll
than
go
that,
and I'll move somewhere. And see, now when you move, used to be when you moved to the ass end of nowhere, you were like in a dangerous spot. Now you got the internet. I'll be able to talk to you forever.
Sure.
Not like and worry about what the charges on the calls will be and that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Because really, you don't leave the house. How many people outside the network do you see,
No one.
a week?
No one.
Right. So do you have to be living in New York City? You do to have the people here for the show.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had a way of me like doing my show from my house and you did it from, East Bumble.
Wherever. Yeah.
You know?
It would be possible.
Right.
27 years ago, this house was $100,000. That's how much my parents bought it for. And they bought it in a high market.
27
years ago. They bought it in a really high market, and they felt they got screwed because the house across the street the year before sold for about $70,000.
Wow. Do you know my house?
Nothing's under $1 million.
The house that I grew up in Massachusetts, my parents bought for $11,400.
Unbelievable.
And do you know what it's worth today? It's in a historic section of what is Salem
Do
Village.
they still own it, or?
My mom owns it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the value now?
Oh, the value is something in the like $750,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of increment. That's a lot of.
You know what I love when people are like, $100,000 is not. That's not good money. And I'm thinking, who's making about $1,700 a week clean? Who's making that?
Yeah.
Name me one person making $100,000 clean a week.
Right. There used to be rules. Supposedly, your rent was supposed to be 1 week's
week's salary. Yeah.
And that's just not happening anymore. It's not happening.
What was it? 1 week rent, 2 weeks bills, 1 week in the bank.
And 1 week, like
one week.
1 week was food, and then the second week, the third week was luxuries and savings.
Yeah, that doesn't exist.
Right.
You can't do that.
No.
My homeowner's insurance came in today, $6,000. Got to pay that.
Yeah.
My car insurance, $4,800.
Yeah.
Got to pay that.
Yep.
I mean, there you go. That's $10,000 right there. A little over $10,000.
Right. Well, realize that when people live in an apartment in Manhattan,
they don't have any of that.
They don't have any of that, but they also can't deduct it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how much deduction are you gonna get though?
Right.
I mean that it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about the expenses.
Yet, I wouldn't live anywhere else. Not until I'm old.
Even going out, like people are like, well, why don't you just go to the island? And I'm saying it's going to cost me even more. There was this beautiful house out there in, I know Lunatic Radio's listening, so they're going to get a kick out of it. In Dix Hills.
Yeah.
There's a corner property.
And those hills don't even belong to Dick.
They don't belong to Dick at all.
That's weird.
It was a corner property. It was a beautiful, beautiful house. The woman passed away. They were asking like $320,000.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in this affluent neighborhood. Do you know why they were asking that?
Why?
Because the property taxes were $29,000 a year, and it only goes up.
Right.
So you have to pay $30,000 in property taxes to live there.
Yeah.
If you're making $60,000 a year, half your salary is going to the property taxes, and a lot of these, and this is a major problem out in the island now, a lot of these retired families can no longer afford to live in the houses that they lived in their entire lives because the property taxes have become so expensive. They're taking out reverse mortgages to pay the property taxes so they can live. So when they die, they lose the house because there's so much of a lien against the house.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful. Because they bought the house, and the property taxes, God knows what it was, 50 years ago out in Suffolk County.
Yeah.
They were paying $25. Nobody wanted to live in that hellhole.
Right.
It's so crazy what's happened.
Yep. Well, The View does a thing, I think, once a month, and a guy comes in and shows houses. And there's like this house. There was this house in a town in Texas. It had like an indoor pool. It had like 2 acres, and it was like $48,000.
Yeah.
But you have to live there.
Yeah.
And all deference to the fine people of Texas.
I was talking to one of my buddies that moved like somewhere in the Midwest. I don't want to say where he is. And he was telling me, he's like, what my property tax is? He's like, I got like 8 acres. I'm like, what? He's like, about $200. I'm like, that's your property. He's like, yeah, nobody wants to live here. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm complaining about $4,000 in property taxes.
Yeah, we're going to move to some place where there's nothing.
And this is why I'm unhappy. Do you get it now?
Yeah.
This is exactly why.
Yeah, I get it.
But you lived in an apartment for a while, right?
I lived in an apartment. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment for 18 years.
So what was it like coming out of the apartment and going into this house? And it's a nice size house with a beautiful backyard.
Yeah.
And you're paying, the homeowner's insurance, or this, or that. Like all these things started. You're like, wow,
Right.
I never thought about it. Was it like one of those?
Well, I remember I grew up in a house, and so did Joe. So we both saw our
Understood it.
paying mortgages and property tax. Yeah, the whole idea of property tax floors people who never think about it.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'll just do this and I won't have a mortgage. And then you're like, but you'll have property tax.
Yeah,
And
you'll
they're
still
like,
have to pay.
What do you mean? Yeah.
I've been paying insurance for this house and my insurance isn't cheap for the house, and I have leaks all over my roof, and all my gutters have come out, and insurance won't cover any of it.
Why?
Because with my policy, my great policy. Oh, first of all, Allstate dropped me from my insurance. That's one thing. My homeowner's insurance, Allstate insurance, dropped me because they claimed I'm waterfront property, and I'm a risk for a hurricane. They consider me waterfront property.
You're on the top of a bluff.
I'm on top. Yeah, like there's nothing here. I'm thinking, I'm like, what waterfront property are they talking about? Because Little Neck Bay is
Maybe
right.
they know something you don't.
And that's what I said. I said, well, what waterfront are you talking about? Because I'm looking at Mr. Dulligan's driveway.
Yeah.
And then they go, and I'm looking at a park, and I'm thinking maybe they consider the pond waterfront, and that's their way to drop me from the policy. That's my theory. So we had to drop it, and we went with another company, and
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
So that's my whole thing. And that's my rant. So am I happy? Yes, I'm very happy.
No, do you have moments that you just kind of go, yeah, I'm really happy? Do you have moments?
Do I have moments of happiness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do I. I don't have.
You know when I'm not thinking about, let's say I'm out and I'm having a couple drinks and I'm with a couple of my friends and I'm thinking like, well, I don't need to worry about paying this bill. Like that's a moment of happiness for me. Like it's paying off.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to worry that how am I going to split this bill? I don't have to worry about going out and, eating what I want to eat. I never, I've always said if I need to count how, the bill, if I have to look at a menu and say, well, I can't afford this, so I'm not going to get that, that'll be the day that I stop going out and I start rethinking about what I'm going to do and why I'm going out and I shouldn't go out possibly. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you realize that, well, that's a problem if you're counting, I could only afford $7 for lunch today. Maybe you shouldn't go out and eat.
Right.
Which I think a lot of people make the mistake and they do it anyway.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people go, this will make me happy in the moment, and they don't think about the ramifications.
I'll deal with it tomorrow.
I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I think you kind of have to do that every once in a while, but that's kind of the deal with happiness and unhappiness. It's like, I'm going to choose to be happy now, realizing that there's going to be a moment that I'm going to have to deal with this later, where I'm not going to be happy.
Sure. I think, you know what it is with me? I made the big mistake of, and this is not a mistake, but when I was younger, I made decent money for a kid. For a 19, 18-year-old kid.
You were making nice stuff.
So I spent a lot of money. And I got into the trouble with credit cards because I wasn't making the same money later on.
Right.
So I paid off all my credit cards about 8 months ago. No, 10 months ago. I paid off everything. And I ripped up every one of my credit cards. I threw them all away, and I just carry my debit card.
Yeah, well, the debit card.
I don't even have
the debit cards now. What bank do you have? Everyone in the world should switch to a small community bank. Did you hear they're going to charge you a monthly fee for having a debit card?
How much are they charging?
Like $5-6 a month.
Yeah.
But they'll make billions of dollars, and you know why they're doing that? Because they can no longer charge merchants the per charge thing. They used to charge merchants 44 cents to allow them the credit card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now they can only charge as much as $29.
Well, Amex was taking like $2. Amex is out of control. I never used Amex in my store, but I paid off all my cards, so I don't have a business credit card because I don't want to start charging on the business card. I just have the debit card. So if I have the money, I buy it. If I don't have the money, I'm not buying it anymore. Even with the business, I don't want to do a loan. I don't want to owe anybody money, because the worst feeling in the world is doing this and saying, wow, I got to pay this creditor. I have to pay that creditor.
Yeah.
You know, that's a problem. All right, Lon, we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
Any plugs?
No, just that I'm kind of happy right now. I'm happy I'm going to go home and have some really good chili.
Excellent. Now I'm going to go to Lunatic Radio, and I might end up drinking now. See, they're breaking my sobriety.
Good luck to you with that.
I want to remind everybody, go to our website, guysfromqueens.com. You could also go to our shameless site, gfqlive.tv. Tomorrow is the big Apple conference. We're covering it. Not the big Apple conference, but the big Apple conference. The big Apple conference.
Oh, that's very different.
Did you hear the big Apple conference is in town? I'm going to be covering at 1 o'clock. I have
Funny
a number
they're
of
having
guests
it in
coming
New
on.
York.
And then Paul Thurrott after that. So it'll be a big tech day tomorrow on the GFQ network. You can start watching at 1 p.m. East at gfqlive.tv. The Apple event. The Big Apple event. It still works. The Big Apple Circus is our circus. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.